Today we have the Typ65 Plus from Axiom Studios in the wonderful Malaysia. I did get a bunch of extra stuff in here that they provided for the build. Here we have all the little bits. Then I have a hot swap PCB which is in yellow. And then in red we have the solderable version of the PCB. Then for plates I received 2 carbon fiber ones, 1 full plate, 1 half plate, and a full FR4 plate. By the way, straps that don't fall back down are good stuff. I received the garnet red top with black bottom, and it's stunning, and we'll see more of it later in different lighting conditions. The other top colours are jade and grey, which both look sick too. And for the bottom there's also a silver option, so that's pretty cool that we can kind of mix and match. Alright, let's take it apart and have a close look. There are 8 hex screws that hold the top and bottom aluminium pieces together, and then another 3 countersunk hex screws that hold in the internal brass weight. It's quite a thin weight, but it does span quite a bit of that internal bottom area, so it doesn't add a whole lot of heft, coming in at about 275 grams, but it's more to help with the acoustics of the board, which should help with that internal reverb. Now to the bottom aluminium case, again this is also available in silver. As we can see I have a prototype version, but it's pretty good, just some small marks in this internal anode mark. And quite a shallow clearance, so not a whole lot of room inside, therefore the bottom retains some good thickness to it. And no foam included in this build, besides the gaskets, which is what these little grooves are for. And we have the USB-C daughter board here. Now to the top case, and this reveals the second mounting option that the keyboard offers. We can see 8 spots for the plate tabs with threads, meaning that we can top mount it without the gaskets. Also in the top corner we have our blocker accents, in which we receive both brass and polycarbonate, so you can change that out depending on the look that you want, which we'll see later. Alright, let's get to the build. As shown before, there's a choice between solderable and hot swap PCBs. Hot swap means that we have a fixed layout, which all looks very standard besides the step capstock. And of course we can hot swap our switches without the need of any soldering work, although you will need to solder on the through-hole LEDs for the blocker if you want that lighting. Then for the solderable version of the PCB, that's where we get all the layout options with the bottom row, split backspace and left shift, normal caps lock, and of course ISO enter if that's you. Okay, I'll start with the solderable PCB, and I've chucked in the stabilizers already. In the prototypes they used singular color red, green and blue through-hole LEDs, however the production units will just be using white LEDs. Just take your time on these. Through-hole LEDs can be a little sensitive. I think out of all of them 2 didn't light up, and these are the only LEDs in the board, by the way. They provided me with these Evil Aries switches, which are tactile, and they suggested that I use the full carbon fiber plate. By default, there is a choice between full or half carbon fiber plates, which it's an interesting choice, not the most commonly used plate material out there, especially for being the default. FR4 will also be available as an extra. No aluminium, interestingly enough, which is the usual go-to. However, they will be releasing a universal plate file later on. One thing to note which I didn't show is that there are no standoffs that go between the plate and PCB to hold them together, so for the hot swap version, just make sure that your switches are properly in. Okay, let's look at the 2 mounting methods. First up, top mount, meaning that we screw the plate into the top aluminium piece. There are cuts in the tabs of the plate which allows the screws to go through, and is also for the gasket mounting. What that also does is give the plate a little bit of relief, but also reduces the surface area between the plate to case contact. The other mounting method is gasket mount. We're given this length of EPDM, O-ring gasket cord. It's approximately 3.5mm thick. Yeah, I'm not really an expert on this, but it seems pretty firm and springy, and all we need to do is chop it up and place them in the grooves in the bottom of the case. Then the plate just sits on top of those, with the cutouts in the plate making it super easy to position. Putting the top case on, we can see that it doesn't take too much effort to close, meaning that there is enough room in there for the gaskets to not be overly compressed. And here's the Typ65 Plus by Axiom Studios. As the name suggests, this is a 65% plus a left-hand macro column keyboard, and the board has a nice clean aesthetic. From the top we have, I'd say, medium-sized bezels with the sides being thinner, not that there's any real standard, but the bottom bezel has a pronounced chamfer to lower that front lip inspired by the good old cherry boards back in the day. It's not a huge chamfer, but still very noticeable and recognizable. Every edge on this keyboard is chamfered, by the way, at least on the outside, besides the corners, which are filleted, so nicely finished and comfortable to hold. Also on top we have that blocker design. Remember, we can put the included brass piece there instead of the polycarbonate that I have, but I think the LED shining through looks pretty cool, plus it is a layer indicator. Looking at the side profile, we have a comfortable 6-degree incline. The red top alu piece slips over the black bottom piece, giving it a clean, seamless design. I like how the red runs all the way down and how it's flat with the surface at the front there. And there's also space to pick up the board, but you can one-hand 65% anyway. Looking at the rear, we have a centered USB-C port which splits the two colors beautifully, and this is where the bottom case color is more noticeable. And finally to the bottom, remember that we had an internal brass weight, so nothing out here, and instead we have quite a large engraving, but otherwise pretty simple. To be honest, if it was mine, I'd be pretty tempted to fill it in with something. It's a fun layout to use. I've always been a fan of 65% boards in functionality with dedicated arrow keys and its compact form factor. Adding the macro column on the left gives it a more elongated look, which I also do like. And while it extends the board, it's on the left hand side, so it doesn't interfere with your mouse space. And macros are useful for people that use them, even just for media controls, which can be done via VIA. But I know there's a cheeky bunch of you that sees this as an artisan column. Alrighty, I recorded a few configurations, so let's give them a listen. Starting with a soldered build, full carbon fiber plate with Evil Airy tactile switches. Only the bottom housing was lubed with Tribosis 3204 and not filmed. Interesting one. There's a lot of flex towards the middle on either side of the lateral flex cut, which is present on both the plate and PCB, and that creates some vibrations when typing. But because we have a carbon fiber plate, the bottom out is pretty sharp, high pitched in sound, but not particularly loud. The spacebar though is so good. The difference between top mount and gasket mount wasn't too much. Top mount is slightly high pitched and a touch clackier, while the gasket mount supporting the board from the bottom softens the bottom out a little bit, but again, it wasn't huge for me. I think for tactiles, I preferred the slightly dampened nature of the gasket mount, which was really enjoyable. Moving on to the linear build with the half carbon fiber plate, I used SP Star Meteor Whites, lubed lightly with Krytox 205 grade 0, and filmed. The switch itself is on the clackier side already, and I only had them lightly lubed to keep that characteristic, although personally I feel that they need a full plate to accentuate the switch, so that's my bad for using these on here. However, as we can hear, they still maintain a sharpish bottom out, although it's a little flat, not much depth to it, and yeah, I just feel that the full plate would have been much better. I wasn't entirely happy with that, so I chucked in some alpacas, which are 62 gram linears, lubed well with 205 grade 0, and as you can hear, huge difference. For me, the board really came to life here, much poppier. It didn't feel as flat anymore, and just everything a bit more thock, depth, it was fuller, and just more substance to each key press, which was super enjoyable. I did also test the FR4 plate, but it was pretty dead with the SP stars that I had, and I just wasn't a fan personally. So for me, I enjoyed the tactiles on the full plate. The SP Star Meteor Whites weren't amazing on the half plate, with the alpacas being a lot nicer for me. I preferred gasket for the tactiles and top mount for the linears. I think Lightning and Jay used MX Blacks or OP Blacks, I think, and they both sounded amazing, so that sort of thing may be the way to go. And check out their streams, by the way, both extremely knowledgeable, more than me. But what I wish I could have tried was linears on the full carbon fiber plate, but unfortunately I don't have a burr gun, so I ain't doing that. And that's the Typ65 Plus by Axiom Studios. Had a lot of fun with this one. I love how it looks. It's clean but not without character. The colors are sick, and it's nice that we can choose the bottom color as well. Left-hand macro column is cool for actual functionality, but I think it's just nice for that bit of spice. The ability to choose between top mount and gasket mount gives us something to play with, although with the specific configs that I had, the differences weren't huge, but still noticeable. The group buy for this board will end on the 14th of December or until sold out with 350 units. It's priced at 1640 Malaysian ringgit, which equates to approximately 385 USD according to Google. So yeah, as always, custom keyboards are expensive, but that is pretty fair. Pretty good to see something like this under 400 bucks. So yeah, I'd say it's a solid buy if it's the sort of board that you want. If you want to check it out, I'll chuck all the links in the description. I hope Max doesn't do a Viren. Bless and terima kasih.